think by the time, yes, got it. Yes. Yeah, we should be online now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Academy of Astrology podcast, monthly podcast. Well, today we have Marcus and Mandy. Hello, Mandy. Hello, Marcus. How are
Hi.
you?
Hello.
Hello, I'm okay.
Yeah, good. All good.
Yeah, oh good. Yeah. It's so nice to see you again. I think we run this podcast for a long time and I really don't want to miss anyone, to be honest. And once a month we are here. It's just like we catching up at the same time, but we also talk about the things we love most. When I chat with my friend, they say, how lucky you are. You are doing the job you love most. I say, that's true. Yeah, also sometimes we have a little bit complaint, but we're still thinking that's the things we like, and that's the things we really enjoy. How could we complain about it?
It's true.
So, well, today I think today we are going to focus on two topics. One would be the solar eclipse just happened, although we are not able to see it because mainly this solar eclipse happened from the South Pacific and I think only the South Chile and Argentina can see it. But still, I think a solar eclipse is the solar eclipse still going to have an impact. For example, is the moon wobble season and the eclipse season, and we can see the world geopolitically. The war is kind of coming up, and the things I'm in holiday, so many people say, "Have you seen this? Have you seen that?" I was like, "Oh God." So, should I put chart on? But I would like, invite you to talk about because solar eclipse is also a new moon. So, how are you going to interpret this, Libra solar eclipse? Should I invite Marcus to start it?
Don't mind either. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
So should we
yeah, yeah.
get the chart up, Rod? And then
Sure. Yes.
yeah, that would
Yeah.
be really good. Um,
Here we are.
it's amazing. And this is for London, isn't it? This one.
Yeah, I still use London. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. So we'll talk a bit generically about the sort of solar eclipse in Libra. The first thing I guess we talk about, as you said, Rod, it's a new moon, so it's a solar eclipse. So all eclipses are disruptive, but solar eclipses, because they're a new moon, are a disruption which begins something. It kicks something off because it's a new moon, basically. But it's a disruption because it's an occultation of the light, like the light of the sun is temporarily cut off. And traditionally, the sun and moon sort of ruled important people. So generally, they were seen to be particularly bad omens for rulers and sort of people in important positions. So that's just generic 101 about solar eclipses. It's the beginning of a new thing. Destabilization or unpredictability is always a feature, and it's often it may involve sort of destabilization for people in important positions in society more generally. Second thing we got is it's in Libra. So Libra, some of the features of Libra, it's a cardinal sign, so it moves quite quickly. It's a social sign like all the air signs, so it's to do with relationships between people and communications between people. Libra, on a psychological level, it's often more one-on-one, so it's one's personal one-to-one communications with other people. And it's a Venus ruled sign, so it's a sign, but it's people often forget that while it's ruled by Venus, Saturn is also really strong in Libra. So it has this interesting, okay, yeah, it's all about harmony, but it's also Libra's real sign about rules and like social conventions and like how things should be done and what's right and what's wrong. You do this or you do that. That's got that kind of saturnine sort of limiting quality to it about sort of social boundaries and stuff like that. So a solar eclipse in Libra might be somewhat destabilizing to some of those in general sort of social niceties and whatever. And this one, the third feature of this eclipse is it's on the south node, which is a point of it's sort of an outgoing point. It's a releasing point. It's a letting go of. So that's a bizarre sort of thing to have a solar eclipse, a new beginning, which is also taking things out. It's sort of purging things at the same time. And then the fourth feature, I guess we could point to of this eclipse would be just looking at its aspects, what it's actually having a conversation with in the sky. And of course, it's having a square to Mars in its fall in Cancer, which is going to make any sense of destabilization or social discord or disturbance, that's going to amplify that, because you're going to get this sense of sort of like just just anger, or people sort of having emotional anger issues, kind of causing potential upsets. And it's ruled by Venus, which is in detriment in Scorpio. Um, so that could also imply that sort of relationships going through sort of rocky emotional waters. It's not all bad. There are some good features, but I don't want to hog the mic. But just to kick us off, those are some of the sort of generic bullet points that I'd be looking at just reading this Eclipse 101.
Thank you. That is so cool. That is so cool. That is wow. Why I suddenly have something.
No, but
Oh,
it's
Have you
very
power.
have you
exciting.
this?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know when I do this or something.
Beautiful.
it was
I
great.
don't know what
Yeah.
happened. I don't know what happened. It must be they plug some AI things there, you know.
That's very
Well,
cute.
Monday. Yeah, it's quite
That's
cute.
very cute.
Mondays.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
Mondays. So
thank you, Marcus. That was very comprehensive, actually. And I want to take a different sort of turn and look at the bigger picture of this eclipse.
Great.
So this eclipse is the last of 6 solar and lunar eclipses that have fallen under the nodes in the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. 4 of them have of those eclipses have had the Sun and or Moon in Libra or Air and or Aries. 2 of them haven't, but we've still got that over the last year. These 6 eclipses have happened over the last year. So we have that thematic link to the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. So the way I've been looking at this eclipse, particularly being the last of a series, is that, oh, by the way, the nodes are going to move in January. So we've got till January before the nodes move back into Pisces, which would be the North Node, because obviously they move backwards. But we can actually look at this eclipse and all the other eclipses that have happened and take the bigger perspective. So we could look, I'd like to just very quickly look at the themes of the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. And guys, do pitch in if you have anything to say on that. But I think this axis of Aries and Libra, the North Node, particularly in Aries, has had a lot about individuation, about self-sovereignty, about coming into your own power and into your own self, and the relationship to yourself, and the way that relationship to yourself is mirrored by the relationships you have with other people, and of course with the world in general. So I'm just thinking that those are some really useful things to be thinking about this season. And really there's a completion coming in January when the nodes move, so we have a few months to sort of reflect on where we are in terms of, you know, self-love, self-sovereignty, love for self, where you stand strong in your own individuality and to be yourself very strongly, and where you also still have to yield and compromise and have relationships with other people. You know, where do you not consider other people? You go your own way without considering people. Or on the other hand, if you flip into the South Node in Libra, which, as Marcus said, it's where you need to purge and let go. Where are you giving too much of your power away? Where are you giving away through people pleasing or through compromising too much to your own kind of detriment? So really, I just wanted to sort of take that bigger picture. This eclipse we're recording this on the 4th of October. This solar eclipse is on the 2nd of October. It's a new moon, and a new moon has a short shelf life, but an eclipsed new moon has a longer shelf life, particularly as in the effects can go on longer or they can take longer to manifest, particularly if you have anything around sort of between 7 and 12, say, degrees of Libra and Aries in your chart. So that's something to think about. Or if you generally have strong Aries and Libra in your chart, think back about the processes of how you may have come more into yourself, or you may have given more of yourself away, and what you need to do to balance those, because the nodes are always in opposition, so they always speak about balancing the 2 signs that they're in. And in the birth chart, of course, we talk about the north node as what you need to grow into, and the south node what you need to let go of, but also the resources that you have quite naturally that you have to use and balance. So it's not about throwing all those away, it's about keeping those. Anyway, just wanted to give that bigger perspective. Hope that's helpful.
That's it.
Beautiful.
That's really, really amazing, Mandy. Actually, that's fascinating. I'm very interested with this eclipse because I know it's just been, but as you say, the effects can last for a while after. I mean, the traditional rules on eclipses, I might mangle these, but you can look them up in Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos, which is still in print. But basically, it's like, in terms of where you were in the world, the eclipse is only supposed to affect that location as a whole if it's above the horizon, which in the UK, this isn't. I think you said earlier, Rod, this is visible mainly in Argentina and parts of South America. So that's one thing. But one of the sort of like how long, and then they've got another rule, which is when will those effects happen in that location, which is something else. But then they've got, okay, and how long will the eclipse's effects last for in months or years? And they said solar eclipse effects could last, I think it's months or years, like longer units of time. And it's essentially however long the sun is actually eclipsed for in minutes is how many, I think, months or years. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up in Ptolemy, but there's a precise. So if you really wanted to get a bit anally retentive astrologically about how long the effects of this eclipse might linger for, there is an astrological way of approximating that to however many months it might last. So I'm particularly interested, Mandy, with what you're saying, because my sun is at 10 Aries. So this eclipse is exactly opposite my sun. I haven't noticed anything yet, but I am going on a retreat, which was by design because I am an astrologer as well. Might surprise some of you that I am also an astrologer. So I saw this eclipse coming up a few months ago, and there was a retreat in a couple of weekends, and it's one of these retreats where they're encouraging you to dig up all your psychological stuff and get to grips with it. And I thought it's exactly the kind of thing I hate and that really challenges me. But I was like, this is a really good time to do it because this is when the universe is pushing me to do that, because this eclipse is falling in my 12th house of self-sabotaging stuff. It's a south node eclipse. It's about digging that stuff out. And just on that in general, obviously I'm talking about my own particular biography, but just in general with what you were saying there, Mandy, it's with the sort of the Aries stuff being about yourself and the Libra stuff being about how you're interacting with others. This sort of eclipse in Libra, it's sort of about, with Mercury, I forgot to add Mercury's right there as well, isn't it? So it's sort of about a new beginning in how you interact with other people, which might involve dealing with some kind of emotional conflict or gnarly stuff in your relationships and how you interact with and communicate with others, where it's trying to get you to do is purge some of those things that might be derailing your relationships. And one of the reasons I say that is because we also have the ruler of this eclipse, Venus. Yes, it's in detriment in Scorpio. She's not super happy there, but Venus is in an applying trine to Saturn and Mars. And so there's a grand water trine there with the two malefics, Mars and Saturn, which are all, they're both about, Saturn's about subtraction and Mars is about division. They're both about whittling things down, chopping things out, that's a like surgical combination, and then with Venus there, it's sort of like, okay, this is the gnarly stuff in relationships. And this grand trine, I think something about it is there is the potential, yes, there's the potential to support some messy emotional dynamics in an unhealthy way, because a grand trine, it just flows. So you could just easily sit with all the mess in your emotional body and just leave it there and not do anything about it, because that's what you could do with a grand trine. But there's a potential there to utilize this grand trine after this eclipse and actually get to grips with some of those gnarlier feelings that we might have, particularly in relationships, and start to dig them out, start to surgically excise them with Mars, start to work through them in a disciplined way with Saturn and confront them. And that Venus there is kind of, particularly in Scorpio, is there to say, you can be supported through this process. It's not going to be fun, but you can be. So that's one way of interpreting it. I think that's more that we can leverage this eclipse. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
If I could
yeah.
add to that as well, you talked about that grand trine in water, and that like speaks to, especially with the malefics there, and Venus isn't in a particularly good sign for itself. There's that potential for a closed circuit of emotional defensiveness, that those
Yes.
emotional psychological defenses, and the way out when you do have that flow, because a trine is an easy aspect, but it doesn't just allow the good stuff, it can allow the stuff that
Yeah.
isn't helpful as well. And the way out of that is really to look for the squares in the chart, and you can see the square in that chart there is to that new moon, that
New
eclipse
moon.
moon, that
Yeah.
square to Mars. So this could be a trigger to become aware of things that you don't want to see, and things that you don't want to deal with, but you may have to through relationships, because we're in the sign of Libra, which can only be a good thing so long
Yes.
as that you get the love and the support and the self-care that you need to sort of work through the gnarly stuff, as you described it beautifully.
Yeah, I think that's great, Mandy, and that's definitely along the lines of what how I would interpret it. No, I totally agree that the square is kind of activating, it sort of demands a response, doesn't it? Because it's sort of like,
Mm.
you know, you've got that, particularly the sun and moon and Mercury all involved in that square to that sort of Mars struggling in Cancer there. It's kind of like,
Mm.
you know, there's going to be a need and a desire to start to communicate and think about how you're relating to other people, and there's going to be lots of emotional, as you say, very defensive emotionality around that, which could be to take the form of, why should I have to do that, or why should I be the one to do that, you know, that's that kind of vibe. And you know, as a Mars in Cancer native with Scorpio rising, I'm very familiar with those emotions, do you know what I mean? And they can lock you in to a pattern of, you know, where you can just get, and that's the, as you say, the negative potential of such a trine. You could lock yourself into a pattern of justifying your justifying a dysfunctional way of relating to other people by just getting defensive about your feelings, exactly as you said, Mandy. So, but the positive potential here is you've got that impetus to like, no, look, there's a potential for a brand new beginning in how you relate to other people, where you could let go of a bunch of baggage here. So yeah, but I mean, on a mundane level, I think this eclipse is going to be a lot rockier because of the square to Mars. But on a personal level,
Mm.
there's actually some quite positive juice here. And even that wide trine from Jupiter, I mean, obviously it's not in orb, it's not, but
Mhm.
just Jupiter and Gemini is not very strong, but it's still got
Mhm.
that potential for, here, look, we can rationally unpack and understand all
Ah.
this, you know, these emotional, this, sorry, not this intellectual derailment that's happening with the eclipse in Libra. It's like even the emotions may be turbulent. That's the Mars in Cancer piece, but the eclipse itself is about how you see yourself in relation to others, the sort of the intellectual component. How do you interact with others? How do you perceive yourself in relation to others? How do you perceive others in relation to you? And the Jupiter trine by sign is saying there's potential for, you can see this from more than one angle. You can so if you get wrapped around the axle of your own feelings about a particular relationship, or even a particular viewpoint you have on a political topic, because everything political is so freaking binary right now. Everything is so like this side, that side, you know. And there's a potential with an eclipse like this, yes, to aggravate all that, but also to be able to start saying, as a former colleague of mine, Laura, I think I've quoted her saying this before because it's such a nice phrase. She always says every dice has 6 sides. In other words, there's more than 2 sides to every issue.
Mm.
And I think there's the potential to see that and then to make some emotional adjustments here.
Yeah, I agree. Well, beautiful. Especially, I quite like to. I want to repeat what Mandy said. I was really inspired when Mandy, starting from the last year's, this is a 6th eclipse in this axis, in this Aries and the Libra axis. So when the nodal axis is moving the sign, when they step into the Aries and the Libra sign, we start to listen. And now it's coming to the end of this lesson, and we start to wrap it up, and maybe we can plant some new seed inside of our heart as a new moon and the solar eclipse, we probably plugged in something, a seed or something, a new hope or something about ourselves, about the understanding of ourselves, about the understanding of our relationship. And beautifully supported by these water grand triangle was so interesting. I want to add one more thing. It's quite interesting. I think Marcus would be very interesting about this. Is
it the
this
star?
solar eclipse? Yes.
Vindimeatrix. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Okay. If you know this fixed star, it's a very interesting fixed stars because Ptolemy gives us say this star has the Venus-Saturn nature. And then I think most astrologers call it widow stars, widow maker. So this star in the traditional meaning has a kind of a unfortunate for the relationship Saturn-Venus flavor. Quite interesting. I tried to track the story why this star become a widow maker, why it's unfortunate for the relationship. Well, I only can find the story in the mythology is talking about Dionysius, because all these areas, I think from the constellation of Boots to Virgo, are all related to the winemaking and related to Dionysius. And particularly either these stars or the Arcturus, either of them are being described as a lover of Dionysius. It's not a human being, it's a steer, right? I don't know, the half goat, half human being. What's the name?
Satyr. Yeah, the satyr.
Satyr. Yeah. So it's lover and trying to grab the grape for Dionysius, but falling to the river and die. So Dionysius put it as a star, and this name. So, but there's two meaning here. We always focus on tragedy because we are remember the tragedy, trying to grab the grape and die. But Benedict Brady more focused on grabbing something, collecting, because this stars also in the Babylonian time is dedicated to their goddess, fruit goddess, particularly date, not date.
The fruit
state. But if you think it would be dating, well, what would be nice? Well, yeah. So it's a goddess of death, called Nicole. So it's a collecting fruit, especially this star become like rising is a kind of a harvest of a grape and fruits. So it's like a harvest and the collecting things. But in another way, we been long time we associate with bad omen of a relationship. So we can go either way. But in one way, yes, well, we may have the unpleasant experience or encounter, but I think we can collect the data. I don't know.
No, that's interesting. So I thought Vindimeatrix was kind of like as you said, Rod, the Widowmaker. It's a star about sort of overreaching yourself or kind of trying to go a bit further than you should with something, or and can literally indicate sort of separations or bereavements or something like that. So it's the Venus Saturn thing. But what the positive meaning? What was the positive meaning from Bernadette? You said it was associated with fruit, harvesting, collecting.
Yeah, collecting information, collecting food.
So maybe the way to square that circle with this solar eclipse with the South Node is something about there's some disruptive thing that happens that might involve some overreach or some like potential relationship ending thing or something not necessarily doesn't have to be that dramatic, but something where what the end result might be after some turbulence insinuated by the eclipse is some kind of harvest of some new potential. We've got some potential. I just interpret this eclipse as like there's a potential for psychological growth here that is really positive, and it is growing out of a place where a lot of the planets in this chart are quite traditionally debilitated. You know, we've got Venus in detriment, Mars in fall, the Sun in fall, Jupiter in detriment, Saturn's peregrine, Moon's peregrine. Nothing has any great dignity here, but we do have this supportive grand trine with Mars receiving Venus. Both, like, Venus is in water triplicity where she enjoys. Not everything's not trashed, and also there's that trine of Jupiter to the eclipse by whole sign. So I don't know, but I think there's got some of the circumstances around this eclipse have to incorporate some of that negative meaning of Vindemiatrix as well as the positive. I think that there's
I
going to
agree.
be that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you were saying with so much sort of the lack of so-called dignity in terms of placements of planets. My take on that would be that actually makes you work a little bit harder.
Yes.
Where you said about psychological growth, you can see that putting in the work makes a difference. And my second point, which is actually a question, the fixed star, where does it fall in this chart, Rod? Windometric?
Yeah, it's on the 10-degree Libra.
I thought so. I just wanted to clarify. I missed that.
Yes,
Wow.
Sorry
no,
about that.
good point, Mandy. And I can't remember, is that it's probably, I think it's 10-degree Libra is its ecliptic position, but is it actually on the ecliptic rod, or is it kind of?
I will consider it is very close.
It's very close.
Very close.
Okay,
it's
so
very close
it
to
will be
ecliptic.
definitely activated then by this, because obviously, I mean, we'd still, as astrologers, consider it to be activated if its projected ecliptic degree was there. But if it's, you know, if its actual declination or latitude was way off, then you know, there's a bit of wiggle room there, and it might not be so strong. But I mean, maybe we also, just on a mundane level, I don't know how literally to take that fixed star, but maybe have a look out for things happening with the date harvest then, or, like, you know,
that would be interesting.
I don't know.
I never checked it.
If the star
maybe we
was
should go
linked to dates, I don't know. But
yes
might be an overreach.
Or wine. Maybe we should check wine and vine, because that is also related.
The vine might be more something to look out for, because traditionally the vine was as a herb ruled by the sun, so it's a solar herb, and so obviously the sun is in fall in Libra. It's with the south node being eclipsed on Vindemiatrix, so that might be a problem with some of the vine harvests or something like that. Maybe we'll see.
So interesting. We learn something new every day. Now we know the vine is a solar herb. Yes. I never know that. I will think about Jupiter. Anyway, should we move to the next lunation? Is another super full moon.
Amazing.
Yeah, okay, so here we are. So next full moon will be on the 17th of October. Is a super full moon. This super full moon, to be honest, is very interesting because it's located at 24-degree, or another. I think it is another fixed star there. 24-degree Libra and 24-degree Aries. Should I invite Monday to start with this full moon?
Yeah, the first thing I spot, we're in Aries Libra territory still with this one, and the first thing I spot is that there is a grand cross with Mars. We've already spoken a lot about Mars in Cancer for the eclipse, but we've also got Pluto joins the party here at 29 degrees Capricorn. So, and the Sun is conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. So I'm seeing a lot of intensity in this full moon. We just talked about, you know, the basics of what a new moon means. A full moon is basically everything is in full light, everything comes to a peak, everything comes to some kind of manifestation. So I think it's an intense full moon. We can see Chiron there in Aries conjunct to the moon, so there's that potential to feel wounded, but out of the wounding that comes up, I'm not talking about brand new wounds, I'm not talking about literal physical wounds, I'm talking about psychological wounds that might come up, these triggers that we spoke about actually for the eclipse. I think there's some thematical things that sort of follow through. The other bit, so some potential for sort of healing some of these, or at least closing some of the scars. And we still have Venus in Scorpio here, and it's at that very intense 29. Venus in Scorpio is intense in and of itself at the 29th degree, kind of opposite Uranus. That adds a lot of extra intensity. So kind of hold on to your hats, hold on to your everything, hold your breath if you need to, and try not to get into too much conflict. But the conflict might be within yourself with that moon. That emotional conflict might be within yourself with that moon in Aries there, that might ignite some kind of fire. It could positively ignite some kind of fire in you, some sort of coming to the realization of some deep need that you have to, and Aries needs to act, so that it's an action thing. Whereas Mars in Cancer there is less, it can prevaricate a little bit. It can be kind of slow to act. So you've got quite a few different things here that, and again, Scorpio is here with Mercury and Venus. Scorpio takes its time. So you've got perhaps a little bit of frustration, the intensity of the frustration, the intensity of wanting to act, but you can't act, or I don't know. I think that there's, let's just say it's complicated and leave it at that now, and let Rod and Marcus give their take.
Marcus, yeah, could you take on,
great,
Marcus?
Mandy. I fully
Thank you,
agree. No, that's great, and you really picked on the two. We've got that sort of, obviously the main. We've got the full moon in, as you say, in that grand cross with Mars and Pluto, and then the Uranus Venus opposition as well. So a couple of things from this. The first thing is this whole chart is actually answerable to the Venus Mars square, because if you look at where everything's placed, let's start with any planet. Mercury and Scorpio. I'm just going by traditional rulerships here. So Mercury and Scorpio, ruled by Mars, ruled by the moon, ruled by Mars, ruled by the moon. So Mars and moon are in mutual reception in a square. Start with any other planet. Jupiter is in Pisces, traditionally ruled. Saturn is in Pisces, traditionally ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in Gemini, traditionally ruled by Mercury. And so we're back to Mars and the moon. So everything in this. So the Sun ruled by Venus, Venus ruled by Mars. So the whole chart is actually at the top of that dispositorship tree, if you like. We've got the moon Mars square. So we've got the moon in Aries, full moon. So everything's coming up, everything's out on the table in Aries. So it's like, I need to express this feeling. I need to get this out here. I need to say my piece. I need to do something. Squaring Mars in Cancer, which exactly as you say, Mandy, is like, oh, I'm not sure if I should do this thing. Do you know what I mean? I really need to do something, but I can't act directly. I've got to do. So what that feels like is so I can speak a little bit to what this feels like. As I say, my Mars is in Cancer, and I also have a nephew with moon in Aries, and that moon in Aries sits very close to my Venus and Mercury in Aries, and I love him to bits, but he'll often trigger me a little bit. Because he's he's like a triple Sagittarius, super competitive, loves, and I am a very sore loser, I like winning, I hate losing. I'm very, very sore loser, classic Aries. Anyway, so when we're playing games and like he'll beat me at a game, he is a terrible winner. He's the most obnoxious winner, like in the sense that he'll be like, I told you, and that really, really grinds my gears. It's like, if you do that one more time, I'm going to take your head off, kind of thing. It's just like, so, but I love him to bits. And it's that kind of like what I see this moon in Aries square Mars in Cancer. It's that kind of vibe. It's like where you're sort of feeling a bit triggered by the situation, potentially, and Pluto's going to amplify that. So those triggers, like you say, Mandy, they'll be from the basement. These are old triggers, similar echo vibes to what you're saying about the moon Chiron. It's like, this stuff's old, like, well, my friend of mine has a phrase which says, when it's hysterical, it's historical. Do you know what I mean? Which I really like.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, well, yes, it's great, isn't it? It's great. So that's the vibe here. You might get a bit triggered, a bit tripped by something around the full moon. Events might bring up those triggers. But the reception between the moon and Mars does generally indicate that there's a chance to digest, to assimilate those triggers, to understand them. And there are a few other things in this chart which say similar things. The Venus opposite Uranus, that's like relationship instability or harmony getting upset. But then we've got that sextile and trine by Pluto. Okay, this stuff's coming out the basement, everything's getting unsettled, but there's a chance to get some juice out of this, to understand, to digest it. And the final piece, I think, for me, which suggests a more positive spin on this triggering full moon, is the fact that the sun is on the fixed star Speaker at 23, 24 degrees of Libra, which is a super positive fixed star. It's like sort of like the happiest star in the sky. So it's kind of saying the battery that is powering this full moon is on the happiest star in the firmament. So it's kind of like, okay, this is super triggering. Stuff's going to come up. You'll kind of want to possibly beat family members to death. Don't do that. But it is gonna bring stuff up. But it's all kind of digestible, and the juice that you get out of it is potentially okay. There are some lessons we can learn here about maybe managing emotions, maybe sort of understanding our feelings a little bit more, something along those lines. Anyway, I haven't properly cooked that one, but those are my thoughts on this.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well said.
I
Mandy, do you
like
want
what
to add
you
in?
said
Yes.
yeah, I like what you said about digesting, and that made me think when you're looking at that moon Mars of like swallowing your anger.
Yeah. Bolting your food, like when people inhale their food.
Emotional eating as well,
Yes.
and all of that kind of thing. You got a trine as well, haven't you, here between the Venus and Mars. You've got a sextile between Venus and Pluto. You've got a sextile from Pluto and I think it is Neptune, and another trine from Neptune to Mars. So you've got a kind of a kite aspect there as well.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Again, we talked about sort of those trines. A kite is like a trine that's given a lot more focus, and the focus goes on to Pluto there.
Yeah, it's sort of like this is a safer trigger zone.
Yeah.
This is like you're around this full moon. There's where you can get quite profoundly potentially triggered, but there's a little zone of safety around these triggers. It's not totally safe, but it's kind of like stuff can come up, and it's like there's an opportunity here to understand it, to release it, for it to be, partially assimilated at least, so yeah.
I just had the image as well, because I was just thinking of the literal image of a kite. The idea, the thought came to my head of like, let it go, there are, especially if we're continuing the work of the solar eclipse, knowing what to let go.
And that's beautiful, Mandy. I really like that.
Fly, let it sort of float and fly.
And particularly as the spine of this kite is that Pluto Mars. This is going to be, is it the last Pluto Mars before Pluto leaves Capricorn? I think it might be. Yeah, unless there's one during the Mars retrograde. But no, it is, isn't it? Because Pluto's going to be in Aquarius then. So this is the last Pluto Mars opposition before. Yes. So I totally, this is the last opportunity to let some of this shiz go from the last few years with Pluto in Capricorn and these eclipses being in Aries and Libra. I mean, not that this is an eclipse, but this is the same month as the solar eclipse. This is the full moon of that solar eclipse, if you like. So I love that, Mandy. That's really beautiful. Really powerful, I think.
We're going into air as well. We're going very much into the air element when Pluto settles in Aquarius.
Which is much more about logic and social relationships and less about getting bogged down by the sort of feeling or I don't know. What do you think that shifts about in this context?
The Pluto moving. Well, I mean, it's already been in Aquarius and it's gone back again.
Yeah.
And I think we're in the transition period. We've been in the transition period into Pluto in Aquarius for quite a while now. Certainly in the world, we've seen a lot of things going on that are very Pluto in Aquarian already. And we've seen a lot of stuff come to the surface. Pluto this brings up the shadow of the sign that it's in. And if you think back to the last 14 years, I think it's been 14 years, Pluto in Capricorn, all the shit that's come up in the world about sort of corruption and power. I mean,
Yeah.
just crazy stuff, awful stuff. And Aquarius, I think he's going to feel a little bit, I hesitate to say a little bit lighter. It's still a Saturn ruled sign.
No, but Pluto has a way of making everything not light, but yeah,
Exactly.
it's going to be a different vibe, isn't it? For sure.
It's a kind of different vibe. I think Pluto in Aquarius is going to show us the shadow of let's have a little think.
So, well, maybe social.
I've got too much Aquarius. I can't talk badly about Aquarius.
Yeah, no,
I love it. You know, I love it or loathe it.
Yeah, no, but I think if Capricorn is like about materiality and perhaps to some degree hierarchy and, you know, physical power, monetary power, invested power.
Yes.
Those kinds of, so I'm thinking of sort of like ambition, the dark side of ambition. So Capricorn in and of itself as a sign, I don't think is necessarily corporate, but that material matter of earth with climbing up ambitious stuff, Pluto in that sign is going to speak about corporate abuse of power potentially, and corporate, you know, like financial kind of daring do and like things going on under the table and whatever. In Aquarius, I sort of think Aquarius is much more social and it's kind of egalitarian. So it's potentially the dark side of egalitarianism, the dark side of large social movements. So, you know, because, and it's not like, I think, you know, there's always a dark side to just about anything you can think of. Like, that's just like life, you know, everything has a good side and a potentially dark side. It's just that when Pluto crosses something, it just brings it all, as you said, Mandy, it brings it all to the surface, it exposes it all. It's sort of just like it comes up. So I think in Aquarius it might be sort of like the darker side of, but it's not just the dark side. Pluto also it brings it up because it's like we're wrestling with those things. It's sometimes like we're wrestling with them with an aim to like getting rid of the stuff which is rotten in those things. So Pluto is this paradoxical, it's purification through I can't say that, purification through putrefaction is Pluto.
Whoa.
I agree. I think that what Pluto shows us is filthy and we don't want to look at it often.
Yes, it's horrible. We sort of like no,
horrible. That's why Pluto's associated with taboos, but we have to look at it. I think I feel sort of on a deeper level that, you know, whether it's in our personal life or whether it's in the world, that Pluto shows us this stuff, brings this stuff, as we've said, to the surface, so that you can clear it, cleanse it, and heal it. And if we turn away from it and go, "That's disgusting, I don't want to go there," then we don't cleanse and clear it. It just buries itself even deeper.
And I think the danger with that's brilliant, Mandy. And just to bring it back to this full moon, the danger with this one, it's sort of like potentially bringing that kind of stuff up in, I don't know, family emotional complexes or, you know, conflict within families or something like that, the Mars Cancer thing. And the danger with the opposition is that it's so disturbing that what one sees, that one projects it onto the other. It's that person that's doing that to me. They are making me react this way. It's them. Look at them. They're evil, you know, that's the thing. But I think when you've got this kite or this support, this kind of thing, you're helped to assimilate it and to recognize that there's emotional lessons that can be learned, and there's some help here which it doesn't. So it's interesting. Anyway, that's just one interpretation, but I think I don't think it's as even though it's a gnarly full moon, it's not as gnarly as it looks. Actually, there's loads of support for
indeed. Well, I think I want to summarize for what you talked about. A fantastic discussion away from Marcus and Mandy talking about this from the ground course and then to the ground trine and to the this kind. Why are you talking about? I suddenly remember a story totally fit into a whole picture about this, and also include the moon conjunct Chiron. Was in the mythology, the god of a craft, Hephaestus. He was born and rejected by his parents, and then he hid himself under the volcano to craft his gift. And then he wanted to do the revenge for being abandoned by his mother. So he make a golden chair. We remember the story.
Okay.
The golden throne. And then dedicate to his mother, Hera. And then when Hera sits on the chair, they all gear trick trap her on the chair. And then they demand to release Hera. And he say, unless you give me Venus, Aphrodite, as a wife. If not, I will not let you go. So all the gods beg Aphrodite to marry to Hephaestus. He is not a handsome one, but submit by all the pressures from all the gods, Aphrodite have to marry. So I'm thinking about all these kind of things that we didn't get before. Now we say we try to get from other way. Like what we talking about the whole in this discussion. We try to get from somewhere else, or try to blame someone else.
You're really pulling on the sort of coercive Mars Pluto. It can be quite coercive and underhanded, and the R word. It can be a little bit R. Y. That's the Mars Pluto potential. But and just from a traditional point of view, Mars in Cancer at its worst, the fallen Mars can be like that. It can act indirectly, and that's what that means. You know what I mean? Like to spring that trap. Now you have to do this thing, and you have to do this to fulfill my emotional needs. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's kind of, there's a lot of potential for that. I think that myth is kind of dark because it's like the coercion goes down so many levels in that myth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, then, I agree.
And then, but it's also a myth about be careful what you want, because then he marries Aphrodite. And I think if I remember correctly, she serially cheats on him. So he has to use more smithery to make a magical net to catch her and her lover Mars having it off with each other. So, it's just like, okay, so just be careful what you wish for. But, but I think it's also, there's more support. There's a bit of support in this chart so that I think that kind of coercive impulse, that's a really I don't know, this is just my tell me what you think, guys, but like that myth is really juicy, Rod, and it feels like that kind of coerciveness might come up, but there's also a bit more support here to
Mandy.
You got all the characters. You got all the characters here as well, haven't you? You can bring in in Scorpio, could be the Aphrodite behavior. You've got the Aries, which is Mars. You've got the monstrous husband, which is just well to that Mars Pluto opposition. Incredible.
So interesting. I would suggest if we ever feel like that, remember, there's always different way to see things, and that there's always different way to solve. And always remember what make you today. Those story already there. What make you today? It would be a gift too. Don't forget that gift rather than look only wounds. And that would be, a better way to deal with these superwoman.
And that revenge story as well. That's a cautionary tale.
Yes. Yes.
What they say about revenge, the best revenge is to let go and live a happy life.
Oh God, I always say that. And one of my favorite phrases, Mandy, is the best revenge is your own success.
Yeah.
Although that's a little bit siphoning in my Saturn in Leo there. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I think that's true. And I reframing, isn't it? It's about reframing what you're saying, or just like rather than going down because stuff will come up already, maybe is coming up for a lot of people this month about feeling the need to do something a bit more coercive, maybe, or feeling triggered into saying something or acting out. And actually, but there's an opportunity, I think, with both of these charts we've looked at to kind of reframe those feelings. So
Wow. Thank you, Marcus, and thank you, Mandy, and thanks everyone stay with us here. Well, I want to say on the 1st to the 3rd of November, we have our second Academy of Astrology online conference, and this year we dedicated to the mundane astrology. Mandy will also give a talk, and so about air element, I think. So everyone are welcome to join us. Early bird discounts till I think it's until the 21st of October. So you still have a chance to use the 80 pound to enjoy 16 track plus 1 workshop. Hakan going to give a workshop about astrological tool for assessment result of election. That going to be
Amazing.
fantastic.
Just guys, is just to clarify, Rod, this whole, if people buy a ticket to the conference, it's all online, everything's recorded. So what you're essentially getting is you can attend any or all of the live lectures, but you're also buying access to those lectures. You can download them, you can have them. You're buying a whole suite of lectures by some of the world's top astrologers.
They can listen for two months.
It's super good. So
thank you,
and really good value.
Yeah,
thank you, everyone.
And the last conference was huge success. It was brilliant. So this one,
I really enjoyed it.
Just as good, if not even better.
Yeah, but by the way, I think Marcus, are you still have a new teaching coming up?
It's come out actually, but it's for anyone who's a therapist or we've only got one module up at the moment, and that's just for anyone who's a therapist or a herbalist or a doctor or an acupuncturist who wants to learn medical astrology. So it's really for people who are already working with medicines or patients and want to learn medical astrology. So the course is called Astrology for Herbalists, but really it's for anyone who's a therapist. And that's now available. So, but
also the Kepler, are you still?
Oh yeah, shit. Oh, sorry. Excuse my French. Yes, I'd forgotten about that one. Yes, that's well done. That's coming up.
I remember
in 3 weeks. So yeah, well done. Thank you. No, that's coming up on October the 26th, and that is on prognosis. That's just a 5-week course on prognosis in medical astrology. So yeah, thank you.
October 26th.
26th, yeah, Saturday. 26th.
On the same day, I also give a free talk on Kepler.
Oh well, really? Okay, cool. Well, you get to choose. Mine's in the evening in the UK. So
going to be interesting. We're going to.
Hopefully, we're not clashing.
Finish. No, it's not. Definitely not. Yeah. But I will finish early and then come to Europe. But Monday, you're going to give a talk to the Brighton group soon, right?
Oh, I did it.
Oh, you did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No, it went down very well.
Cool.
Very well, well subscribed, and lots of I'll probably do. It was similar to the talk I did at the astrological conference about the astrology, psychic mediumship. And I had a bit longer for the Brighton group, so I added quite a lot of info and topic that surprised me, just how interested people were and how many psychic mediums are hiding in plain sight.
Do you think this could be a book, Mandy? Because honestly, I think there's a lot of interest in that topic.
Yeah. The more I look into it and the more I speak to people, the more I deliver work.
I really think it would be worth publishing on that, actually.
Yeah, I probably will at some point. I'm going to do research. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, well. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget, if you like our podcast video, please like, share, and tell everyone this is a fantastic channel. So next week, we will come back for the mundane astrology discussion, horoscope, and there's so many things going on. So we're definitely going to have a fantastic evening too. Well, thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Mandy. And see everyone next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Where is my am I still I'm still on
streaming
YouTube? Am I still streaming?
Still streaming, I think.
We are still streaming, right? But I couldn't see the stop streaming. Where is my